The harvesting machine sang with alien frequencies that made reality bleed at the edges. Kael threw himself sideways as the extraction beam swept across the chamber, its crystalline array pulsing with power that made his enhanced perception shriek warnings. Where the beam touched reflect, the dual fragment bearer's outline began to fracture, pieces of his consciousness being peeled away layer by layer. Fascinating. Director Hallam's voice carried over the machine's harmonic whine. She stood behind protective barriers, her pale eyes fixed on the extraction readings with scientific fascination. 2 fragments in one host. The integration cascade is remarkable. Sable's hard-light constructs blazed as she created barriers between the machine and its targets. But her golden shields wavered under the extraction beam's pressure. The device was designed specifically to penetrate resonant defenses. You don't understand what you're doing. Elena's rifle spat energy at the core soldiers, who advanced behind reality anchors that made the deep zone's physics scream in protest. Those fragments aren't weapons. Of course they are. Hallam adjusted controls on the harvesting matrix with practiced efficiency. Everything can be a weapon if properly applied. 7 fragments unified under controlled conditions will give us dimensional breach capability without the instability of the original fracture. The extraction beam intensified, and Reflect convulsed as Fragment 4 began separating from his neural pathways. The mirror fragment fought to maintain integration, creating recursive feedback loops that made his screams echo in 17 different harmonics simultaneously. Fragment extraction detected. Host consciousness, compromised. Recommendation, immediate intervention. Kael reshaped the fortress walls, sending waves of crystalline spears toward the harvesting machine. But Hallam's forces had come prepared. Their reality anchors created zones of stable physics where the deep zone's malleability couldn't function. The original researchers had the right idea, Hallam continued, her fingers dancing over extraction controls that pulsed with alien frequencies. They just lacked the proper containment protocols. Fragments bonded to human consciousness are chaotic, unpredictable. But extracted and properly housed. She gestured toward the containment matrix. Pure utility. Ghost phased through the machine's support struts, her translucent form barely maintaining coherence. The neural interfaces, I can disrupt them. But as she materialized inside the device, suppression fields activated automatically. Ghost solidified with a pained cry, trapped within the machine's crystalline framework as extraction protocols began targeting her diminished abilities. You're destroying them. Ren's voice cracked as he watched Petrov's archive integration dissolve under the beam's influence. The organic cables extending from the bearer's skull withered as 17 months of merged consciousness unraveled in minutes. They're still people. They stopped being people the moment they bonded with alien parasites. Hallam's tone carried the certainty of absolute conviction. I'm saving what's left of their humanity by removing the infection. The extraction beam carved deeper into Reflect's dual integration. Fragment 4 began separating completely, its crystalline essence flowing toward the harvesting matrix in streams of pure possibility. The mirror fragment fought the separation, creating infinite reflections of the extraction process that made the air itself fracture with recursive impossibilities. Sable charged through failing hardlight barriers, her conductor abilities blazing gold as she tried to reach the machine's core systems. But core soldiers intercepted her with weapons that fired hardened mathematics, projectiles that existed as pure concept rather than matter, designed specifically to counter resonant defenses. The dimensional threat is real, Hallam said, her voice rising over the machine's increasing harmonic whine. Something is coming through the barriers we damaged in 2041. Something that makes the fracture look like a minor breach. These fragments are the only technology capable of sealing the tears properly. Elena's rifle clicked empty as she dove behind crystalline formations. You caused the fracture in the first place. A necessary experiment. Hallam's composure cracked slightly, revealing genuine conviction beneath the clinical detachment. We needed to understand dimensional mechanics before the real threat arrived. Every sacrifice was justified. The extraction reached critical intensity. Fragment 4 tore free from Reflect's consciousness with a sound like reality screaming. The crystallized intelligence flowed into the containment matrix, where it pulsed with contained possibility under electromagnetic constraints. Reflect collapsed, his dual fragment awareness reduced to baseline human consciousness. His mirror eyes went dark as 17 dimensions of perception collapsed into 3. The fortress around them began to destabilize without the architect fragment's continuous reality manipulation. Fragment bearer down. Extraction, 100% complete. Host survival, confirmed. Kael felt his own fragment recoil as the machine swiveled toward him. The frequency's terror flooded through their connection, not fear of death, but horror at forced separation from the consciousness it had begun to consider home. The extraction beam locked onto his position, and Kael threw everything he had at the machine's core systems. Zone manipulation protocols activated, reality bending around his will as he tried to reach the containment matrix before. The harvesting device exploded. Ren's jury-rigged signal disruptor finally overloaded the machine's crystalline arrays. The blast sent core soldiers flying as exotic energies discharged in 17 directions simultaneously. But through the chaos, Kael saw Hallam's transport lifting off, Fragment 4's containment pod secured in its cargo bay. As the aircraft disappeared into the zone's twisted sky, Kael's cascade-enhanced perception detected something that made his enhanced awareness freeze with absolute terror. The harvesting machine's death scream hadn't just destroyed the extraction protocols. It had broadcast a signal. A beacon that pierced dimensional barriers like they were tissue paper. And something on the other side had just locked onto the transmission and begun moving toward their reality.